finally, with some help from God and providing people to us to help us, which we knew nothing about, never thought about them or even knew they were in existence, that they came and they supported us. And we filed charges against the county judge, against the county police chief, the sheriff, the district detective, the mayor of Newport, the Newport chief of police, the Newport chief of detectives, and maybe one or two other ones beside that we filed charges that we could remove them from office if they were found guilty of the charges we filed against them. And we were successful in removing about half of them, I guess. But when we started removing some of them from office, well, that made a big difference in the community. One man in particular said, I want to do something. And we said, well, we're going to need some money to file these charges. And he's a businessman, a manufacturing businessman in Cincinnati. He said, I don't mean just money. He said, I want to do something. And so I said, well, I work under the Hatch Act, and I can't become involved in partisan politics, so we have to have a political action committee. And he thought that was a good idea. He would like to do that. So he organized what was called the Committee of 500. And they said to our committee, you get them out of office, we'll replace them.
The push by the Committee of 500 to elect honest officials gained an unexpected boost with the campaign of George Ratterman for sheriff. Ratterman was a local hero, an All-American at Notre Dame, and former Cleveland Browns quarterback. Announcing his candidacy, he said, I have 8 children. I don't want them to grow up in a community where syndicated gambling finds a home, where prostitution flourishes, where officials are known to be corrupt. I'm told that if I run for sheriff, I will probably be the victim of all sorts of slanderous attacks. Within a month, Ratterman was arrested with prostitute April Flowers at the Glen Hotel above the Tropicana Club in Newport, in the suite of Tropicana manager Tito Carinci. At the sensational trial, Ratterman took the stand first and maintained that he had been drugged and set up. Carinci, well known as a gambler and as an Xavier University football star, had arranged a meeting with Ratterman through a third party to come clean and give damaging information about the local rackets operations to help the campaign to clean up Newport. At that meeting in Cincinnati, Ratterman said that he had been drugged, taken to the hotel in Newport, and, while still groggy, forcibly disrobed by the police. Ratterman's torn pants were entered as evidence. The defense produced test results showing that Ratterman ingested chloral hydrate, known as a knockout drug. Tito Carinci and prostitutes April Flowers and Rita Desmond testified vehemently against Ratterman. The final surprise testimony came from a photographer. He testified that Carinci's partner asked him to take compromising pictures weeks before, but when the call came that same night, he didn't show up, possibly forcing the arrest instead of the usual frame-up with pictures. The case was dismissed, but it caught the attention of Attorney General Robert Kennedy, and charges were brought against Tito Carinci. April Flowers recanted her testimony. Public opinion surged in favor of the reform movement, and Ratterman rode the botched smear attempt to victory. The citizens' revolt against corruption and crime found the impetus to make lasting change. The ensuing crackdown on illegal activities had a profound effect.
The Committee of 500 organized and elected new officials, and those new officials, the sheriff particularly, he started closing places up.
And the gangsters, they ran away. They just left.
If you're a religious person, you have to believe that God's going to support you in what you do, and that He will support you after you do it. And of course, it makes me feel very good to know that I had a small part in what has happened in our community.
In the 70s, though, Newport had not completely recovered from the sins of the past.
Recollecting back on my initial encounters with the Newport problems. Being I guess a naive trooper back in those days, I perceived the problems at that time. It was all new to me. My perception changed dramatically once I saw how bad the situation was in the Newport area. The state police commander had already gotten information that there was corruption within the city commission. So we set up surveillance in the back office of the Highlight Club with the hidden cameras and hidden microphones. Ultimately, a city commissioner, Tony Warndorf, was ultimately charged with bribery. Big Jim Harris was paying him money to get certain individuals within the police department promoted.
So what Newport was left with then were still all of the bars, the dancing bars, the girly joints, the prostitution, and then the introduction of drugs. So that was the situation in 1978.
Citizens started complaining to authorities about the X-rated movie theater, adult bookstore, and 17 strip bars that fostered prostitution, criminal activities, and illegal drug usage. Land use studies of communities across the nation confirm what the people of Newport already knew. Sexually oriented businesses have negative effects on the community. Newport suffered from higher criminal activity, illegal drug usage, and undesirable traffic and lower property values and community standards. The odious reputation as Sin City had a stranglehold on the community's development and growth. But in 1978, the new county attorney Paul Tweehughes and assistant county attorney Justin Verst heeded the public outcry against the rampant pornography, prostitution, and other crimes choking the community. Justin Verst was one of the assistant county attorneys under Paul Tweehughes. Today, they've switched titles, but remain vigilant in upholding the law and community standards.
A lot of people were concerned about what was going on in Newport, and they wanted us to see what we could do to try and clean the place up. And that kind of got the ball rolling.
My position has always been that, pornography, prostitution, and all of those crimes that are tied up with those crimes are business crimes, and that those people aren't in those businesses to exercise their First Amendment rights or to exercise any other rights that they might have. They're there to make money. When the money is gone, or when the risk of going to jail outweighs the benefit of making the money, those businesses will be gone.
Campbell County Circuit Judge Bill Ware started out as an assistant county attorney in 1978.
We spent a lot of time in the planning stages before we actually started any prosecution, and had a lot of outside help. But once that was done, it was kind of something we lived with for the next 5 years or so, from start to finish, from the first prosecution of the theater to them closing down.
The string of prosecutions against pornography and prostitution impressed officials, witnesses, and jurors alike with the need to enforce the laws against such harmful materials and practices.
We were required to go in and watch particular movies. Ultimately, what happened is every movie we watched, whether it be in the bookstore or the Cinema X, was pornographic.
When people would drive by these establishments going to and from work or going in, you don't see what's going on inside them. And I never obviously been in there other than the fact when I went in an official capacity. And I mean, it was shocking to me.
Even testifying, I had to review the films, and it contaminates because you can't erase it.
Sometimes the jurors would have to watch 3 hours of viewing these films. And I mean, I actually had women and men that became physically sick, and we had to stop the trial during it so that they could go out and get some fresh air.
I see the net effects of it in felony prosecution all the time, and I believe that it's because they went down that path and they're using that material. The number of sex offenses we're seeing, the types of programs they try to put together to change somebody's life, the kind of background that people have when they tell you what they were exposed to as children, as young adults, I really think has an effect, and therefore I think it has a terrible effect on the entire community.